to the piano studio of Lisa Bailey. We are going to start a sort of new series. This is going to continue our Circle of Fifths series that we did a while back, but instead of doing major five-finger scales, we're going to dive into the minor five-finger scales. I'm going to teach you how to find the pattern of a minor scale so you can find it anywhere on the piano. And then we're going to do some improv and have a lot of fun together. So I hope you'll join me. If you went through the Circle of Fifths major five-finger scale series, then you know what whole steps and half steps are. But if you didn't, let's review. So whole steps and half steps, let's talk about that. So from any note, you can choose any note on the piano. If you go to the very next note, whether black or white, that's a half step. And if you go 2 half steps, that's going to make a whole step. So you have a half step and a half step. So here's a half step. Here's another half step. Those 2 half steps make a whole step. Like 2 halves of an apple make a whole apple. So let's try a couple of different places. So let's find a half step down from this note would be this black note right here. What about a half step higher from this note? That would be this white key. Now let's do a couple of whole steps. Let's do a whole step from this note that we just left. So we need a half step and another half step. There's your whole step. Look, there's 1 note in between. What about a whole step from this note? So we need a half step and another half step. Right there, we have 2 half steps. Look at that, we're skipping this white key right there. That's our whole step. What about a whole step from this black key? So we need a half step plus another half step. That is a whole step. So whole steps and half steps can look a little different on the piano, but they're made up of the same thing. Half step is from 1 note to the very next note. A whole step is 2 half steps put together. All right, so now that we know what whole steps and half steps are, let's figure out the pattern of a minor 5-finger scale. Now, 5-finger scales are exactly what they mean. 5-finger scales. We're going to use 1 note for each finger. And our first 5-finger scale is going to start on A. So this is different than the major circle of fifths. The minor circle of fifths starts on A. All right, so here we go. We need, our pattern is going to be whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So here we go. A, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. With a major 5-finger scale, remember it was our tonic, whole step, half step, whole step. So here we go. Let's try it on A. Whole step, half step, whole step. But for the minor, that half step is in a different place. So we go tonic, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So tonic, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. All right, so right hand. And then our left hand is going to start with finger 5 on the A. We're going to do the same patterns. We start on A. We need a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, then our last whole step. All right, so try that a few times, hands separately, to get used to how that feels and how that sounds. And when you're ready, you can try hands together. Good. Now in our 5-finger scales, our very first note, our starting note, in this case it's A, is the tonic. That's an interesting word to know. The tonic just means your starting note. So tonic is A, your dominant, your 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is E in the A 5-finger scale. So our next 5-finger scale is going to start on the 5th of the scale. So that means that's where we get our circle of fifths name from. E is going to be our next starting point. So for now, we're going to do a little bit of improv on the A5 finger scale. Start by just using the 5-finger scale and play any order of notes that you want to. You can do steps, you can do skips, you can do long notes, you can do fast notes, any that you want. So take a minute, pause the video, take some time to try out some improvisation on your own. Now that you've done some improvisation on your own, let's do a duet together. I'm going to play an accompaniment that is in 4/4, and you are going to play either with your right hand or your left hand on the A minor 5-finger scale at the same time. So we're going to do this together. So let me give you a measure of 4 beats, and then you can come in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicely done. Doesn't that sound incredible as we're playing together? I love doing those improvisation duets together. Great job on your first minor 5-finger scale. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? And they sound so different from the major 5-finger scales. Gives you a lot of different color to play with when you're on the piano. So we're going to continue this series through all 12 minor 5-finger patterns, 5-finger scales. So I hope you will join me in the rest of the videos. See you next time.